Hey guys, and welcome back to Tommy's Starcraft. This is your host Tommy with another Starcraft Remastered replay for you guys. Once again, we have a great engagement here in between two pro players from the South Korean scene. So let me just start by introducing the players to you guys. We have spawning in the upper left in the blue, it's SSAK, a very strong and talented Zerg player here. And his opponent is going to be none other than spawning here in the lower right in the purple. It is of course Scan, also very skilled Terran player, also very good coach for some streamers. And so on. So very nice game here in between a Zerg and a Terran. Of course, we know that Terrans have two possibilities here in fighting against a Zerg. The first one would be, of course, making massive bio units, for example, Marines with medics and some fire batteries, and perhaps even backed up by some siege tanks. And also the second tactic here for a Terran would be, like Flash has shown us in previous games, that they can actually go for a mass mechanical unit composition made out of siege tanks, Goliaths, and of course vultures. Now when it comes to the Zerg, of course Zergs really like to go into massive Zerglings, perhaps with some Hydras, later on some Mutalisk are an option. Lurkers will also be another option, and Defilers are also a very strong unit here for any Zerg. As the game goes on, we see Scan opening up here with a supply depot, and he's perhaps very likely going to block here this entrance. Now he builds his second barracks into this position. No buildings yet out of SSAK, so he might go into a fast expansion build. Let's just see what exactly his plan is going to be here. One of his overlords is already out on the map searching here for a Scan, and he's very likely going to send perhaps another scouting drone here out on the map indeed, as many Zergs really like to do that. So fast expansion here built by him. Pretty soon it should be followed by a spawning pool, of course. Drone is out on the map. Scan is not sending any SCVs out on the map. SSAK on the other hand, he really wants to know where exactly Scan is hiding. There's that spawning pool with the extractor. So a nice building order now here from SSAK. Firstly going into that fast expansion, and then spawning pool with extractor. The open builder here from Scan is pretty normal, with that supply depot with the barracks followed up by a second supply depot, or at least it should be a supply depot here indeed. And also the first medic is out, the first marine is out on the map, as SSAK of course knows now where his enemy is hiding. Notice that he's also sending out here his overlord throughout the map, perhaps just to place it as close as possible into this proximity, just to see when exactly Scan decides to move out, or when exactly Scan decides to make an expansion. Now this should be of course a factory here for Scan, and he is very likely pretty soon also going to go into his expansion. Of course he will perhaps build here some buildings just to close this entrance. So yeah, let's just have a look at a follow-up here by both players. The overlords are slowly but steadily making their way towards the base from Scan. There's also a tier 2 upgrade, a pretty fast tier 2 upgrade here from SSAK. Of course Scan sees this with his SCV. Now this of course will indicate to us that the Zerg will very likely go for some Mutalisk are possible, some Lurkers are of course possible, even Hydras will be a possibility. So yeah, let's just have a look what exactly he has planned against Scan. This should be of course a fast expansion, an expansion, I'm sorry, here by Scan. So Scan preparing of course his expansion. He's probably going to for some vultures indeed, with some mines, but Zergs really have a great detection against those mines. It are of course the overlords. So pretty good stuff here by both players. Expansion not up yet here for Scan, as he's just turtling here a little bit into his main, just waiting for his expansion to finish, and then of course to move out with his forces, especially with his SCVs. He's at 22 SCVs versus the 20 from SSAK. So SSAK on a 2 base versus a 2 base Terran pretty soon to be. Also places here a nice macro hatchery, so we might see some early aggression here for SSAK against Scan. First Zerglings are already out on map. SSAK placing his overlords really nice here in the right part and also in the left part, just to see if perhaps some dropships would move out. So the map awareness here from SSAK is really great. Also checks the expansion position, sees nothing here, and will very likely fall back a little bit. as the expansion here from a scan is slowly but steadily moving towards the location. We see some factories being built here by scan, so scan decides perhaps to go into mass mechanical units, just like Flash has shown us in previous games. So we might see, of course, lots of tanks with Goliaths and vultures. Some vultures are already out on the map. They will try to kill, of course, as many drones as possible here, but there is also a nice sunken block here with that hatchery. So, of course, Scan has to move out. Sadly for him, his vulture is being caught, and those SCV might be in trouble. They might will have to fight for their lives. All of the SCVs are being pulled towards the vultures here, and with two vultures, of course, can one-shot a Zergling, so this aggression is being fended off. Pretty good stuff here by a Scan. At the same time, the Zerg doesn't decide yet to go for his third expansion here. He just goes into Hydralisk currently, so interesting strategy here by him. Hydralisk indeed, with some Zerglings perhaps he's already going to try to move out on the map and just deal as much damage as possible. Some Goliaths are already out on the map, so Scan is actually expecting some Mutalisk harassment here. He's even building some turrets here, but I don't see a Spire yet here for SSAK, so he's going straight for Hydralisk, and perhaps he's going to take this position into expanding as much as possible. So SSAK doing a great job here, fooling a little bit the Terran. So Scan is, of course, going into Goliaths now as he's expecting Mutalisk, but let's just have a look. Does he have a Scan? No, Scan doesn't have a Scan. That's pretty interesting. Two SCVs are on idle here, so let's just see his upgrades here. He's going into, I don't know exactly what it is. This might be an upgrade for his siege tanks or Goliaths. And we do have actually a first aggression here by those Hydralisk against the Goliaths. Let's just have a look how they do. Goliaths, of course, very tanky, very strong. Two Hydras have already been killed, and the SCVs were also ready here to repair those Goliaths. It's actually mass Goliaths versus mass Hydras. What an interesting matchup we have here, prepared by these two pro players. I don't see any siege tanks yet here for Scan. Of course, a siege tank in the upper high ground would be a very good move here by him, as siege tanks, of course, deal massive splash damage against those Hydralisk. His SCV almost getting taken out here. Is going to make a little bit of way here for his SCV, as more and more Goliaths are being pumped out here on the map. No upgrades yet for him, no upgrades for the Hydralisk either, and no Mutalisk, of course. SSAK, however, showing his presence here. He's just not going to allow any army move out, even backs up his army with some Zerglings, of course, in the front, just to soak up those first shots here out of the Goliaths. And we pretty might soon have another engagement, as SSAK is preparing, of course, his army. Both players currently on hold position, as more and more reinforcements are pouring in here for SSAK. Finally, there's the siege tank coming out here, but I don't think that he has the siege ability yet. It's being researched, so it should be done really soon. As of course there's a nice beeline here protecting the siege tank, of course very important here for the Terran player, but there's just so many Hydras here closing in onto Scan's base. We're closing also in at the 10-minute mark. Scan without a siege tank, so this could be a great engagement here by the Zerg, as more and more units are pouring in. Reinforcements are also coming in here for Scan. One Zergling immediately get taken out. Perhaps SSAK is also waiting here for his lurker ability. Let's just have a look. When exactly is he going to attack? Yes, indeed, he's going to spawn those lurkers. 6 lurkers are being spawned in the back. Of course, lurkers great with the splash damage against this army composition here. Siege tanks finally are being sieged up here, and SSAK also preparing here an attack. I'm pretty sure with, as he's splitting his troops a little bit. Perhaps he's going to group up his lurkers now into one group. Let's just have a look at the follow-up here. There might be also a possibility to take some overlords, just put those Hydras into overlords and drop them into the main from the Terran. In we go, lurkers in the front already taking so much splash damage here. He's gonna borrow them, and finally the lurkers can do massive amounts of splash damage, backed up by those Hydras in the back. Really good stuff here by SSAK, dealing so much damage. For some Hydras have fallen, but in the end the lurkers in the front did a good job here. Things look really good here now for SSAK, as he's even pouring in with some Zerglings here in the front. So nice job here by him. This expansion has to be lifted off, and the SCVs have to be pulled back. SSAK looking very dominant here against Scan. Scan in some serious trouble here. He's going to lose more and more units. Of course, he has some detection here with that turret, but in the end, SSAK now sitting on a 3 base already versus only a 1 base out of the Terran. Pretty good stuff here by him. However, the SCV's count shows us that Scan has more workers here than SSAK. So I'm pretty sure that he's going to drone up as much as possible. The damage has been done here. He has denied so much mining time here for Scan, and he decides once again to group up in the middle, given the fact that he has researched that speed for the overlords. He could, of course, do a drop here into the main from Scan. It would be a possibility, as the Terran units might be blocked here a little bit on this ramp. But if you look at the minimap, you just see the blue dots all over the place. So SSAK with some great map awareness. Great having so much control about the map, having his overlords all over the place, and even spawning more and more lurkers here, and with even more Hydralisk here. So Scan in some serious trouble. Finally he's recovering a little bit. His expansion is pumping once again minerals. His vultures are moving on. They're going to try to place, of course, as many mines as possible just to catch those reinforcements here from SSAK. Yes, he could also go into this basement, but there's a nice block here by SSAK with this cocoon, with this lurker. So really good job here by him. As once again the vultures are out, and they might take out a Hydralisk here, but in the end they just decide to go to the other way and just place a mine onto that ramp. Really good stuff here by him. And this is going to be massive splash damage here out of those mines, so finally Scan can move through and is going straight for those unprotected drones. This lurker, of course, could burrow here and defend this attack off, but in the end 3 drones have been killed, even another Hydralisk. Lurker is not really doing much here. Finally he gets burned as SSAK has to pull his reinforcements back. Pretty good stuff here by Scan, just denying that mining time here in the upper part, forcing a pullback here. Finally the vultures have been killed. Some drones will very likely be brought here into this other location, into this other expansion, as slowly but steadily Scan finds the courage to move out on the map. If you look, however, at the worker count, it's 44 for Scan and 37 for SSAK only, and also the supply is much higher here for the Terran. Really good stuff. Scan is finally moving more and more out. He wishes, of course, to perhaps secure his 3rd expansion. There it is. But it should be the 3rd expansion. Let's just have a look. Indeed, the 3rd expansion is being produced right now. He might fly over this location. But at the same time, Scan, of course, needs to stop this expansion from the Zerg as much as possible. And also the map awareness here from SSAK is really great. So great stuff here by him. As his army is moving out, let's just see, did he upgrade those Hydralisk, even upgrading them 1-to-1. So very good stuff here by him. Let's just check the tanks and the Goliaths here from Scan. It's 1-to-1. So both players, of course, giving much attention to the upgrades. In comes another bust here by those vultures, but the entrance is blocked really nicely here, with that lurker dealing massive amounts of splash damage against this army move out. So the vultures have fallen, and the SSAK might try here another attack. Really nice spread here from these lurkers, perhaps on hold position, just waiting for Scan to move out and deal as much splash damage as possible. We're closing in at the 50-minute marks. Things look very balanced right now, both at the same amount of workers, both at the same amount of army. Really nice pull here with that one Hydralisk, just soaking all of those mines, and we might have another engagement here, as Scan is just leaving his vultures here in the front. Some overlords are being added here into this army composition. Of course, SSAK wishes to deny this expansion from the Terran. So let's just have a look what exactly is the follow-up is going to be here. There's a nice position here for these tanks. He could, of course, drop some units into here, but there are Goliaths in the back protecting those tanks. Expansion hasn't landed yet. However, we have once again a nice move out here with those vultures. There's even a queen here. Those queens could cast Parasite Terran on those vultures. One or two Hydralisk are trying to fend this attack off. and they are indeed being successful here. So Scan still has to wait with his expansion, but SSAK once again moves out in the middle of the map. He's regrouping his forces, and perhaps he's going to try to do a move out here, but there's really a good position here from Scan. This small choke point will just mean massive amounts of splash damage out of those siege tanks. So let's exactly see what exactly the Zerg could do. Of course, Mutalisk would not be a good idea against those Goliaths. However, those Defilers, what I was talking to you about, would have been a great idea, as they would leave the army composition from SSAK invulnerable to those siege tanks here. And even he is adding some more queens. So queens, of course, very, very strong. With that broodlings against these tanks, of course, one queen can cast a broodling, and this siege tank will immediately fall, as the other siege tank would deal massive amounts of splash damage. We see once again an army move out here by SSAK. Perhaps he should bring his reinforcements with him. He's only at 120 supply, as we also have a dancing Hydralisk here. Very, very interesting stuff here by him. Scan already at 160 supply, but his forces are being split here. He has a force here and an army composition here, so SSAK just has to find out a really, really good strategy here for him to win. He's very, very protective towards his expansions. Just leaves small army groups all around the place. Here we go, and a good engagement here by both players. We have siege tanks, of course, dealing massive amount of splash damage. Nice guarding shield here on that siege tank. There is a detection here for Scan, so he's going to see those lurkers. That's of course a defensive matrix, sorry, not a guarding shield. And yeah, a nice hold here by Scan against the first aggression, bigger aggression here by SSAK. Vultures are already out on the map. He's going to try to kill once again as many drones as possible, but there's just so much here for SSAK, as he's once again regrouping and moving out on the map. So once again we have a Terran, a very defensive Terrans. We've seen this in previous replays. Terrans really like to stay back with their tanks and just protect their forces with some vultures in the front, with some Goliaths. Once again, vultures are in the front. They're going to try, of course, to place as many mines as possible here. But in the end, the Terran also would have to somehow move out on the map. Of course, his forces are splitted. Some of them are being left behind. 4 Goliaths with 3 tanks here just to defend this position. A very important position here for Scan indeed. At the same time, I'm pretty sure that SSAK is going to very likely expand into this position. There's a little bit of a move out here by Scan, but he needs to be, of course, very, very careful. Tanks are nicely being spread here. SSAK is preparing an attack. We might have a great engagement here. A good flank here by Scan. He's going to take out so many Zerglings here with that splash damage. He's just luring them into him, so nice move by him. At the same time, vultures here, but we have Defilers now on the map. Defilers, like I told you, very, very important unit. Siege tanks aren't sieged up yet, so this could be a good attack here from SSAK. He also needs that Dark Swarm from those Defilers. There it is, very good job here by him. Of course, some Hydralisks have fallen, but the other Hydralisks are here hidden in that Dark Swarm. In the end, I'll have a massive amounts of splash damage here by Scan, as he's being able to fend this attack off. But more and more reinforcements are coming in here by SSAK. These Hydralisks are nicely invulnerable into that Dark Swarm, so pretty good stuff here by him. Fair trade here by both players, as the reinforcements are coming in with those Zerglings. Of course, these Zerglings will take out the rest of the army from Scan. Let's just have a look at the upgrades from the Zerglings. The 2 Carapace upgrades. Nice mines here on this location, as SSAK needs to be careful not to fall into that trap. Once again, things are settling down here. More and more reinforcements are coming in here for SSAK. And Scan also leaves his reinforcements here onto this position. He might do some drops with some vultures. Of course, always a good options to do drops with those vultures here onto this location. There's a nice defensive queen, but these queens of this position haven't been really that much used here by SSAK. Of course, queens are very good counter to those siege tanks. Once again, we have Scan at 140 supply already, so it's recovering really good. He has 47 workers. This expansion is being protected. Once again, we have a waiting game here by both players. defilers, like I told you guys. Could be a winning move here for the Zerg, but he has to be very careful just to protect this unit and just to place as many Dark Swarm as possible. Sadly for the Zerg, he's taking quite some damage here out of those mines, so he needs to be very careful. So many Zerglings have been lost here. A small engagement here, but this should be held by Scan pretty easily with those siege tanks indeed, as he forces a pullback here. So nice job here with those vultures. Perhaps he's going to kill this defiler. It would be a huge win here for him, but of course the defilers once again defensive with the Dark Swarm. So still the same army composition here for the Terran, with Goliaths, with siege tanks, with vultures of course. The science vessel also much needed for that detection against the invisible lurkers in the ground. Nice drive by here by SSAK, but it's a nice block here from SSAK against Scan, so he needs of course to... his units have been of course killed, so pretty balanced game here by both players. I would say that the Zerg has much more map awareness here against Scan, but in the end, yeah, a very balanced game. 49 workers for Scan, 43 for the Zerg. I guess the Zerg could have an advantage if he would do some drops with some overlords perhaps into this position. This position would be very hard as there are Goliaths, but look at that. The Scan is actually moving out here on the map, so as he's also expanding into this location here, and he's of course going to try to protect that location. Nice plague here on those units very hurt now here for Scan. Scan needs to be very careful. Both players are closing in at 150 supply mark. There are some vultures here who are not engaged with the main army composition here for Scan. They're just placing mines all over the place. Now here we go, we have a good engagement. Remember, those siege tanks are very low, and the Goliaths as well are very low thanks to that plague. So plague a very strong mix here. We have some queens flying in with those broodlords, and here are the broodlords taking care of those siege tanks. Nice irradiate on those queens. The queens are of course being brought here into this position so they can deal splash damage with that irradiate to their own units. Another drive by here with those vultures, but I'm pretty sure that the ramp is not being blocked. Scan is really microing those vultures nicely here, even placing some mines, but in the end this aggression will be fended off of course by SSAK. However, he needs to kill those mines of course first, and then there's even a lurker here, so pretty good spread here by SSAK as he is recovering very well here with his 52 workers. Another drive-by here by Scan, of course. Lots of Terrans are doing this. They just try to place as many mines as possible and just kill as many drones as possible, but in the end SSAK is ready for this. At the same time he's moving out here with a great, quite a small force by Zerglings, but dealing so much panic damage here against Scan. Scan needs to siege up of course, but these units are invulnerable thanks to that Dark Swarm, so pretty good engagement here. But in the end, SSAK has to pull back a little bit. Mines once again are being placed. And let's just see the follow-up here by both players. Still a very good and interesting game. Anyone could win this game, of course. This expansion is pumping those minerals, so is this one. The other ones are being depleted, so Scan will very likely look for another opportunity here to expand. This location is being held by the Zerg. This one could also have been done with an expansion. So we're about to see once again Scan very defensive like other Terrans are. Of course they're placing mines all over the place. And even, let's just have a look what exactly SSAK is going to respond here. Is he going to into more queens? We've seen how what a good counter queens are to those siege tanks. Defilers of course once again much needed. We have the same gameplay here by Scan, placing those mines in the hope that some Zerg units will fall into them. Scan is moving out here on the map with his main force with those siege tanks, and he really wishes to deny this expansion here from SSAK, placing his tanks really nice placement here by them. Some vultures are also moving out on the map trying to deal some panic here against the Terran, but this expansion of course needs to be protected here by the Zerg, as it is a very important new expansion here for the Zerg. Really nice drive-by here finally with Scan, as he killed many workers here for SSAK. SSAK's worker count drops at 45, and he's even going to, sadly for him, lose this expansion perhaps, so he needs to be very careful. His main force is here. Those mines are still doing a massive splash amount of damage against the Hydralisk, and there's even a small force here by Scan, so Scan looking very strong, very defensively. Finally the forces of the Zerg are pouring in here. Nice defensive matrix on those tanks. More and more Zerglings have fallen. More and more Zerglings will come here from the left and just attack this small group here from Scan, but Scan is very likely going to hold this position and fend this attack off. At the same time, he did kill this expansion, so things look really good for him right now, as more and more overlords are falling here for SSAK. What exactly is the follow-up going to be here? Queens with full energy here for SSAK. He really needs to cast those broodlings on those tanks. A very good counter. Sadly he lost his expansion. He might of course expand into this position. He did also lose quite a huge amount of drones, as we see here. So once again things are settling down. Sadly for SSAK, he did an engagement without that Dark Swarm. Dark Swarm of course very good for your units, just to protect it against that ranged attack. And finally the Queens have casted their broodlings here, so 3 tanks have been killed. Really good job here by SSAK, as he's moving back just to regenerate as much mana as possible. Once again the same strategy here by Scan, just placing as many mines as possible around the map. We have once again Queens here casting those broodlings, so sadly for SSAK is going to lose those Queens, as Science Vessels with that Irradiate are a very good counter to those Queens. And great army move out here. I think that the Zerg will very likely go into more Defilers, perhaps Zerglings. Zerglings very strong now with their 3-2 upgrades, but he really needs those Hydras just to kill those mines on the ground. The Zerglings will very likely fall here. Let's just have a look. Massive amounts of splash damage. Still the Zerglings very tanky here, so he's actually moving out. There comes that Dark Swarm, a nice EMP against this one, but more and more Zerglings, so more and more reinforcements are pouring in here for the Zerg. This could be very strong here behind. Nice defensive matrix against the tank, but SSAK's throwing everything he has here against this position, as he knows he wishes just to kill that expansion in the lower part of the map. So more and more reinforcements are pouring in here for him. Really good job here by Scan. He's in some serious trouble. He has to pull his SCVs back. His vultures will stand no chance here against this many Hydras and Zerglings. Eventually it will be cleared off. We have another engagement here in the middle of the map. The siege tanks aren't sieged up. Those mines are dealing now massive splash damage to their own units, and these SCVs will sadly fall here for a Scan. So what a great move here by the Zerg, moving out with those Defilers, with the Dark Swarm, once again showing us the value of Dark Swarm. And there's so much trouble here for Scan, as he has to move out with those SCVs from this location as well. So nice move by SSAK, knowing that this expansion and this expansion are the last 2 expansions from Scan, as this one is slowly but steadily depleting here. So really aggressive move here by him. It's also showing us the value of upgraded Zerglings in the end. Oh yeah, let's just... Once again he's regrouping, but he's positioning here his army once again against this location, Scan is trying of course his best to defend this location. He brings his reinforcements in, but let's just have a look there. I don't see a Defiler now for the Zerg. He's feeling very confident only with Hydralisk here. Defensive matrix on those tanks. Scan knows what is coming. A huge ball here of Lurkers with Zerglings. Finally the Dark Swarm is being casted, and these Lurkers are invulnerable against siege tanks. So really good stuff. Even a Plague going out now onto those Science Vessel. Great Plague gameplay here by the Zerg. Those Science Vessel very hurt, so he needs to be very careful in case some Hydralisk will come here. Hydralisk doing so much damage, just taking one Science Vessel out after the another. Scan not paying attention here. He's probably busy microing this location here, as his siege tanks, his reinforcements are being intercepted by those Zerglings. So Scan in some serious trouble here, as more and more reinforcements are pouring in here by the Zerg. Finally he's mining from this location, and indeed Scan has to GG out sadly here for him. SSAK was just all over the place with his reinforcements, and sadly this location here not pumping any minerals here for scan. This one finally has been retaken, but the damage has been done as those science vessels were very much hurt here for scan. So pretty good job here by the Zerg, as his reinforcements would have put in here once again, and this location would have been threatened. So would have this small army composition here for scan being taken out. So very nice gameplay here by both players. Scan showing us once again a mechanical unit composition, siege tanks, vultures with Goliaths, and a pretty interesting strategy by SSAK with those Zerglings with lurkers, hydralisks, and of course defilers and some queens. See the queens here just pouring those queens back and forward, just killing those siege tanks with those broodlings. A very important unit indeed to have as a Zerg, these queens. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this replay. I'll be seeing you guys of course in the next replay. This is Tommy signing out.